So everyone can easily think that they're building muscle. Everyone wants to build muscle, but number one, hardly anyone knows how to measure it. And number two, a lot of us are trying to do the whole let's get two things at once thing where we want to lose fat and build muscle at the same time. And if it's not that, it's not giving building phases long enough. Because I think one of the hardest things to accept is that progress isn't meant to be visible, especially within 4 weeks, 8 weeks, even 12 weeks. And there are so many questions that I see with how long should I do a bulk for? How long should I do a build for? Is 8 months enough? Why am I not seeing changes? It's been 8 months. There's all these questions within like this short time frame. And that's what we've been sold for building muscle. We want more shape, we want more muscle, a better physique, but every time it's actually time to build it, we panic when the scale goes up. We panic when our legs feel like they're pressing against our shorts and our shorts feel tight. We panic whenever we just feel puffier than usual, like we're doing things wrong, like we're gaining fat. And it is a scary thing. But the problem isn't what you're doing here. Well, it it could be if you're not focusing on the right things, because a lot of the times we are focusing more on the fact that, okay, we're not dieting, we're eating more food, but our training isn't doing what it should, because it's the training that does the building of the muscle. It is only training that builds muscle. Nothing else can build muscle but training. And it's really difficult to allow yourself to really go all into the process if you still have that deficit mindset. Because the deficit mindset is one of the biggest things that holds us back from doing all the things that we need to do to build muscle. Because you can't have your mindset on, I want to lose fat and I want to build muscle at the same time, because ideally your food would be putting you into a deficit to lose fat. You can't lose fat without being in a deficit, but that isn't giving you the environment to maximize your performance. And you can't separate performance from physique. Your performance improvements go hand in hand with physique changes. Performance drives physique. An improvement in performance drives physique. And you do not need a big surplus to build muscle. The smallest of surpluses. And you don't even need to be in a surplus to build muscle to start with, because the number one goal is to first get your training to a level where it actually demands a surplus. Because just eating more food isn't going to build muscle, it's the training that does that. Once your training is in a place to demand, it needs extra fire up the gasoline. Are you doing, in the last episode, I spoke about effective ways of training, the mistakes that we make once all of that's in line. Voila. And as you know, this is 100% real with Ruby. That's the podcast, because I want to cut through I want to cut through all the bullshit that's out there. And you're sold this lie. You're sold this dream because that's what gets the photos, the 12-week challenges. That's what gets people on board. Because honestly, like this is something that I've had to like struggle with for ages with the way that I want to take my business. Because honestly, it like all the fat loss photos, all the lean thing, like the progress photos that I could show, they're the ones that get new clients, that the people, that's the thing that gets the people through the door, because oh my God, I want that. I want that. I want that. That's what we are taught is, you know, idea, whatever you want to call it. And it's really difficult to do that when the thing that I'm promising is something that isn't a 12-week challenge or an 8-week diet or whatever else, but it is so much more. It is a whole body recomposition change. But you have to get used to not seeing fast progress. It's just that you can't just be patient in the process. Being patient does nothing if it's not directed. That patience needs to be directed in the right places because you're making you should be making progress in this phase. You should be noticing progress in this phase. It's just not in the ways that you've been taught to measure it. Because if the real problem is usually the deficit you never left, and by that I mean we're going to come back to the ways you measure it, but it's you can be eating more on paper, but your mindset is still in that deficit. I said that before. You've technically increased calories, but mentally you're still there. You still fear weight gain. You still fear feeling bulky. You monitor everything. You're putting yourself under every little bit of surveillance and you're trying to measure it like a fat loss phase. And you shouldn't be overanalyzing your progress photos. You shouldn't even be taking progress photos on a weekly basis, let alone a month. Like if your body should not be changing all that much on a monthly basis. You would not even recognize it. That's the thing. Like, you should not notice your body change on a monthly basis, especially because you're so used to seeing yourself. The changes that you'll see will be more so on a yearly basis. Like, I had someone come to me and say that they were comparing their progress photos, noticing how much muscle they built, and oh my God, I know that you don't like this, but so don't have a go at me. I'm like, why would I have a go at you? That's awesome that you're noticing that. And actually, this is exactly what I preach. I want you to notice your progress over photos the way that she did it because she compared them to a couple of years ago. And yes, we've built amazing, amazing progress because she's training the hardest she's ever trained before. She's getting deeper in her hack squats like she's never done before. She's actually RDLing properly now. She's using her feet pressure properly in her Smith squat, which is why I talk a lot about training when I'm talking about getting that lean physique because it is the training that does that. Weight loss is completely different than building a lean physique. You cannot build lean, you cannot get this definition, this amazing body composition, this recomposition without dialing in that training and being freaking patient in the process of building in stages because you need to build the platforms. There's platform one, platform two, platform three. That's the way that I want to call it because I don't really like calling things phases because then people ask, what phase am I in? Because phases kind of seem like it's cyclical, but it's not cyclical. Like your journey is not cyclical. That just came to mind now. If we talk in phases, the way that it's typically shown and the way that I used to draw it, which is why I had to get rid of it out of my teachings, because I used to teach this. The phases kind of like revolving around a circle. There's the fat loss, there's the maintenance, there's the surplus, there's the maintenance, like that thing that I kind of used to preach, which my philosophy has never changed, but the way that I try to explain it has shifted. And now I'm starting, because I got rid of it ages ago, but now I'm actually seeing it as what I just mentioned it to. It's more like platforms. You need to lay the platforms, and they keep layering. They keep layering because we're building upwards. We're not cycling in circles. And you can't reveal what you haven't built. And most women need more muscle than they realize to get their dream body. Most women are trying to use fat loss to solve a muscle problem. Even though you're saying recomp, build muscle, and lose fat at the same time, that is inherently a fat loss solution. You can't call it recomp if you're putting yourself in a deficit and wanting to lose fat at the same time. Body recomp isn't like that. Body recomp is more so you can be at the same relative body weight and look completely different. You can even be at the same body fat percentage and look completely different because of the amount of muscle mass on your body. Muscle is what makes the difference. And I can look really shriveled at the moment because my muscles aren't really full of glycogen. I'm not as glycogen loaded as I would like to be, but that's got to do with a lot of a lot of other things. We're not talking about me right now, but that's the difference. Like when you start training, you build up your glycogen capacity. Your muscles increase their glycogen capacity so you can handle more carbs. And the better that you can handle carbs, the better that you can use carbs, the better you can use them for energy, the better your metabolism is going to be. And this is why I can't speak about physique changes and body recomposition without talking about training. And this is about the whole like reverse dieting, that thing in particular. It's like, well, you can reverse your calories up to the nth degree and then diet on higher calories. No, it doesn't work that way either. You don't just get yourself to a place where you can eat super high calories in maintenance and then diet on super high calories because you might still adapt downwards that way. It's just like you've built up your energy flux to such a level. Once you start dieting, what is it that's going to get sacrificed? You might be able to stay up at a higher level for a certain degree, but then if you're someone who is very responsive metabolically, and then your performance suffers, your movement in general drops, then everything else is going to drop as well. But it wasn't some magical thing that has now led to you being able to diet at high calories just because you did some magical reverse. You're probably walking a lot more than usual. You're probably training a lot harder than usual. Your training's probably a lot more effective than usual. Your food quality is probably better because, yes, eating more whole foods actually increases your metabolism. Eating more protein increases your metabolism. Eating less fat and more carbs, eating less fat and more carbs increases your metabolism, especially if you're timing them and using them the right way. Better sleep, better recovery. All of those things lead to an upregulated metabolism. So that is why you can diet on more calories. Plus, you're able to stick to it a lot more. Plus, the foods that you're eating typically will have you more accurate with your food tracking because the more sporadic your food is, the more random your food intake is, the easier it is to forget that you probably snacked on some things, but the more inaccurate your logging is going to be because food logging in itself is not inherently accurate. It's a guesstimate. And the more consistent the errors, then the more accurate it is. But if you have all different errors every single day, that's going to be very hard for you to keep an eye on. That's it's really important to understand that part. But the best building phases look like absolutely nothing is happening, and that's really hard. It's really hard. And with understanding that progress is invisible, we need to redefine what progress looks like. We need to shift it away from visual changes to performance, to having higher energy, to mastering our movement patterns, to mastery, excellence. Mastery, like that mastery part, learning how to tune into the muscles. Like I can fall in love with the way that I feel things. And to me, my addiction is knowing that I pushed that extra set, knowing that I gave one more. But I can't always do that. You can't always do that in your sessions, and that's okay. You don't always have that extra oomph to give. And sometimes it's giving yourself compassion there as well. Because if you're tied to seeing such big jumps in progress, it's going to be really difficult for you to sit through the very part that is going to change your body. Muscle is so metabolically expensive to build. You can manipulate a deficit all that you want, and you can drop water weight. You can go really hard. You can see the scale go down. But you also wouldn't want to do it ridiculously because you will lose muscle mass. But point being, you can easily see the scale go down. You can easily do a fat loss approach. It's just sticking to it. But building muscle requires so much more. And the hardest part, I guess, for most of us to accept is that it's not our bodies being different. It's not age. It's not that we broke our bodies from doing dumb shit to it. That's something I used to believe. I thought I broke my metabolism. I thought I broke my hormones. I thought my body was just broken. And it's not that. It's there is something in our process that needs looking at. And it's usually something that we are blind to and very, very stubborn to because of confirmation bias, because we cannot see the label from inside of the box. And it's really difficult as well when there are people out there saying, well, I lost fat and built muscle. Look at me. No, you just lost fat and rebuild what was there. But if you keep going down that pathway and you never actually get yourself out fueling and building, you're not going to look better over time. And as soon as hormones hit you through perimenopause, you're not going to be saying the same thing again. It's just that you don't really follow and obsess over that person over the lifespan to see the cost of all of that either. There's a lot that we don't see, that you don't see. So it's very easy to get caught up in it all in the wrong way. And it can be really easy to chase the hardness, leanest, only to realize that you still are never where you want to be because there isn't enough muscle there. And that's where we need to be so patient with this process and find other ways to find enjoyment within it because it kind of is like that. And if you never find it now, then what? Then what's going to happen? We give the scale way too much authority in a phase that it is the least useful metric. And so body fat scans, they're absolutely fucking stupid. I'm sorry. I just swore. They're absolutely freaking stupid. A lot of you do not need another Fowler's phase. You need to build the muscle to see that definition that you want to see under there. It's not another Fowler's phase that is going to break the plateau. The thing that you think is helping might just be a comfort blanket that we're a little bit too eh, we're too crazy with to allow ourselves to let go of it. And that's the hard part because it is not going to be easy to do something that is different, especially when the longer that you do your training, even then, now you have to get okay with not seeing fast changes on the logbook. Whereas before, at least you were seeing something change there. But the longer that you do something, it's almost like, well, do I need to change exercises now? No, progress just slows that way. And it can be the biggest win to even see another rep somewhere, another little 2.5 kilo increase. And I know it sucks as well for someone that likes seeing the logbook go up, and that's where we can have some key lifts that we can change with rep ranges and stuff like that. But for me, I tried to put my emphasis on just pushing myself that little bit extra. I love doing little rest pausey thingies. It's like, well, I just want to push myself just that little bit more. I want to see if I can get this. I want to challenge myself just that little bit more. And as I spoke about in that last episode that I did, I don't do this all the time. And you can only do it so much. Because it's going to eat into your recovery as well. But I mean, like, when you give yourself the opportunity to see where your limits are, you start to realize that you've been holding yourself back for so long, and that gets to be exciting. But I am pleading with you to go into your sets, go into the workouts with a whole new level of, I want to try to like oomph myself up for this. I want to create this mental ritual for every single set. I want to see what I can do. And yes, it is mental. Like it's hard. It's hard. It's daunting sometimes. But the better that you get at it, the less you can actually do. Like the less you can get away with and still increase. As I mean, like, and still progress. Because muscle gain is not the same as eating more. Being out of a deficit matters more than just force feeding. You just need to be out of a deficit. We're not force feeding here. You can't speed up physiology. You cannot speed up physiology. That wasn't a tangent, by the way. This isn't this isn't about the food element. This is all about the training. But we also need to make sure that the food is adequate. We need to be out of a deficit. That's the part that matters more than anything else. If you're out of a deficit, eating adequate whole foods, eating adequate protein, fueling yourself enough with carbs, mostly carbs, less fats, then your nutrition is well looked after there. You don't need to micromanage that any further. You need to micromanage and obsess over every single little detail in your training. That is what's going to make the difference. Because the biggest thing is how you are training in each set to maximize this recomp thing. Anyway, back to this whole misconception on recomp, because we need to talk about it because it's going to come into this. So, chronic dieting kills your perspective on all of this because your body cannot build well when it's in a survival mode, which also means mental. And it's a stress. It is a stress. And building is the harder phase emotionally because women have been taught to tie it. Like, as soon as we hear the word build, we instantly translate it to bulk, which is why I am so against the term bulking. It is not serving you. If you think of bulk, you're just going to think of, okay, well, I just need to eat more food. I just need to do more and more training because now that this was another one that I actually fell into. Make sure you're not falling into it. Now that I'm eating more food, I can get away with more training. I can feed more training. I'm eating more food, so I need to be doing more training. It feels weird to be sitting around doing nothing sort of thing. It doesn't work that way either. It's you need, like, how much volume can you get away with? As an example, well, it's not about how much volume you're doing. It's what is that volume consisting of? Is it effective? Is every single set giving your best efforts? But also, are you able to recover from it? Because if you're not able to recover and progress with that volume, I would argue that it's too much. There are periods of time where you will want to push volume, but in those periods of time, you also have to be okay with not getting stronger because there's going to be accumulated fatigue, and fatigue masks your performance. But though that accumulated fatigue, so to speak, can serve a purpose if then we pull the brakes back and then refresh from the beginning and then use all of that to create an over adaptation in a positive way because now we're on a lower frequency that it gives our body enough time. I'm trying to explain in simple terms. It gives our body enough time, enough space, enough space away from that intensity to now adapt. Because you don't want to be going 110%, 100% of the time. It's impossible to. That's the first thing that we want to kind of grasp. But this next part is probably one of the most important parts. One of the most important parts. Because it can trip so many people up. Newbie gains, the things that you see at the beginning, the early results, when you go into the gym and you're able to progress quite a lot, you can increase your weights, you can do a lot more weight, even just not putting in that much effort. Like you can use the same loads over and over again and still see some progress. You can do boot camp style workouts, you can do circuit training, whatever it is that you do. You can download a 12-week challenge, you can do junk volume, and your body is going to change amazingly for the first year because that's what newbie gains are. But we can get so married to that. It sets a false standard. And this beginner phase is what trips everyone up because then we get married to that feeling subconsciously. Our brain connects to that. And what worked at the start is never going to work carrying forward because it wasn't designed to. Well, this used to work for me, so I just need to keep doing more of it. Or I remember when I did this and it worked. Or, I'm feeling this. I've done, like, the classes work, the supersets work, the random heavy-ish sessions, the calorie deficits, the booty stuff, the pump stuff. No, like, your body isn't going to respond to that anymore. We need to get used to the fact that we need more precision, more intent, way better execution, and more actual effort. Knowing the variables that go into making that effort effective effort. Because the last podcast spoke about how you can fail a set and it still not be effective effort for growth to happen. Most women are under muscled, and we can easily think that fat loss has stalled because we're not lean enough. So we need to tighten up the deficit, add more cardio, be stricter, make better food choices, maybe add in more training. But what's really happening is that we just don't have the muscle there to look the way that we want. We don't have the muscle there to have the metabolic burn that we want, the training demand that makes things easier. It's really difficult. I know it's a whole mental shift. The deficit is going to stay a distraction if you don't have somewhere else to look because we know that psychology, if you're removing something like emotional eating, you can't just remove like the food. It's always going to go there because it's not about the food itself. It's about here's the trigger. There's a cue, there's a trigger, whatever, and then there's a response, which is the food. You can get rid of the thing there, but you're going to still have that cue and the trigger, so there's going to have to be something there in the interim to replace it, and not just one thing. Like you need to have a. This is what I teach my girls. You need to have a toolbox of tools because there's nothing wrong with emotional eating. It just can't be the only thing you go to when you're emotional. And the same thing with this. We need to have other things. We need to explore outside of your box. We need to find things that bring you joy, things that can add meaning to this. We need to look in different areas to buy you into the process. And that shit takes time. And that's what real coaches do. They build you into this process so it becomes one with you. And that's why the best athletes, the people that get the best results are the ones that form that connection with their coach because of this back and forth that happens. And it's not something that happens immediately with a lot of contact. It's bits here and there. It's little triggers. Like I said something to one of my clients the other day, and because I take my coaching so seriously and I really freaking care about my clients, once I developed a relationship with them, I tell them things as they are. And I gave her a really hard come to Jesus moment. And I'm like, read, like she does her homework. I gave her a book to read. And she's like, holy shit, like everything in here, I can see it in me. I'm like, yeah, that's your homework for now. Take it, take it. And it's always going to come back. There are going to be things that we want to be in denial of because, as she said, she doesn't like being confronted with something. She doesn't, I, I need to remember the exact way she said it because it was so real and raw. And I'm like, because she felt shame. And I'm like, I don't want you to feel that way. But she realized where it was coming from. And now we've unlocked a new platform, as I was speaking about before, platforms, not faces. And until we learn to push into discomfort in all these other areas, because we need the discomfort of actually picking loads that take us past it feeling like failure and truly being effective. And if you're not logging things and writing notes in your notebook, like actually writing notes, not just weights and whatever else, write the notes. Only then can you really have kind of like a journal or a diary to then go off to be progressively getting better on top of your best. Because it's about you being you in the context of being a human, a whole human, not a data spreadsheet. Okay? Trust, trust that that is going to be the way there. That book. Most people are so bad at judging reps in reserve, so bad at judging training to failure. And learning to fail in itself, actually, I think is the best thing you can learn, and failing often in a short period of time just to get used to it. And to know in your head that this is just for a short period of time. And the reason I say within a constraint time frame is because you don't want to get used to it over and over time, because then you're just teaching yourself to fail versus teaching yourself to push through. I've seen this a lot with particular, well, actually 90% of powerlifters and strength athletes. You have to avoid failure because otherwise you're just teaching yourself to fail and not grind sets. And then you don't give the max push that you need to on those rep maxes that you need to give. And by that, I don't mean one rep max, I mean like two or three, even one rep maxes, yes. So I hope that gives some context there. But one thing that I think is worth touching on is this junk volume idea as well, and where I say we need to be obsessive over the way that we're structuring our training if we want to body recomp, because of the fact that this very thing that ties into your training ties into your diet as well when you're in a deficit. Because if all you have is that deficit mindset, you're not ever going to effectively lose fat no matter what you do. If anything, you probably will be gaining belly fat over time because the brain is smart. If your brain already knows that it has these things to focus on in the training and it knows it has to put in all of this effort, and you're going into the set with all of that in mind, which I do very often when I have other things impacting my session, and it makes me feel like shit. So when I spoke about this in the podcast, but when my partner asked me what are my goals with training, it's just like I just want to be able to be fully present in my session, fully present in that moment, set by set, exercise by exercise. It's like, well, that's not a specific goal. I'm like, well, to me, it is. That's the only thing that matters to me. Because if I'm not in that set, if I'm not feeling like I am getting the most out of my session because I'm fully present and doing it as a, this is my time now, I've ended the day, or whenever I go through the day, I've ended this block, now I'm training. It doesn't feel like a session that ticks my boxes. Your mind dictates everything. And if it is going to know that there is all this other work to do, it's going to put mental limits on itself. And that's where you can hit failure without it going anywhere. And this is why training is the missing link in body recomposition. It's muscle. And I will keep saying the most women have dieted for 80% of their lives or put themselves into the fat loss and focus more on fat loss for 80% of their lives and 20% outside of that. And it's kind of crazy that the people that we like, it's so easy to see women that have the body and then wonder what we're doing wrong. It's this one magic hack. I had a client screenshot a message saying to me, "Oh my God, you look so lean. You have like, I want your legs, blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "What have you been doing different?" Like, nothing. The only difference is it's been probably another year or whatever since I've posted a lot of photos of my training, and I don't know why. It's just been time doing the same shit over and over again. She was afraid of Bulgarian split squats, and I'm like, well, and it was of the leg press. I'm like, well, I do leg press once or twice a week, depending. I've always done it once or twice a week. There was only one period I took it out for a little bit because it was mentally getting to me, and that's okay. I don't always increase. At the moment, I'm doing less weight on it, but I'm, I'm doing it in a different way now because I need a phase like that. And that's okay too. This is what I'm trying to say. Like, we need to we need to see progress differently because we're going to be doing this for ages, and it's not always going to be up because otherwise everyone would be leg pressing trucks and houses by now. It doesn't work that way. The toned look that we want is a muscle problem before it's a fat problem because visible shape comes from tissue, not micromanaging macros and macro managing macros. Smaller doesn't mean defined, lighter doesn't mean defined, as in like smaller pant sizes, and clinging to pant sizes, clinging to any sizes, clinging to how clothes feel is going to undo you because it's not a fat loss phase. Body recomp, you can't expect to go to use the scale, to use measurements, to use progress photos, to use any of that short term. Use training videos, screenshots from training videos. Seriously, if you're a client of mine, can you spam me with more training selfies? I miss when I used to get tagged in training selfies all the time. I haven't been speaking about it enough. That's probably my fault. I've been too busy talking about form checks. But this is so important because if you keep flip-flopping, like, okay, cool. I did 8 months. It's summertime. I'm gonna go back into a deficit. The more time that you do that, you're just gonna look worse over time. You're gonna end up gaining belly fat and your body is just gonna be so unresponsive but you're just gonna end up giving up at some point. I don't want you to be endlessly disappointed every single time you do a fat loss phase for summer and then you decide or you just splurge and fall off track and it's like, oh my God, I have to get back on, but I feel like I don't want that anymore. I hate it. I hate it. It it probably is a detriment that I shouldn't admit this. I don't I As a coach it's really bad, but I'm human and I'm just really emotional. That's probably why I love what I do so much and why I get lit up when I'm able to talk more than anything else is I'm so over like I'm just over the way that social media has gone because I can't be like this anymore. And I want to do more of this, which is why it means a lot to me when you guys reach out to me through my podcast and just reach out to me in general. Because when you buy into this mindset, everything just changes. It's when you support your performance and recovery, you train better, you feel better, your life is better, you have more energy, and all of those increase your metabolism. It really does. When you're playing on a different energy field, your metabolism is leveled up. It seems weird, but it does. It's just not an instant process. I want maintenance to feel purposeful, not scary. I want you to be adherent to this and make life feel not just livable, but thrivable. Because that's when you're going to get the long-term body outcomes that you want, because it's not a short-term thing. And I don't want you to get trapped into what I mentioned before with the newbie gains, because that's the worst trap to fall into. That's where I was forever and ever and ever, because it felt like it was working. And I don't know, I don't know what pulled me out. I don't know why I thought it was working so deeply. I think it was more out of fear than anything else, to be honest, because I didn't feel like I was in control of my body. And I never wanted anyone to look after my food because I felt out of control of that as well. That's something that I want you to take away from this. And there's so much more that I want to say. And I'm going to actually dig into a couple of things because I think it's too important not to. So, because so many women feel they see building phase and they make it mean a bulk. This part I want to go back into because it is the most powerful point for you guys to understand because as soon as you have that thing in your head, you're already half in, half out before you've ever properly committed. You don't know how many women out there are on illegal substances. Like, yeah, a lot of them, like you just don't know. It's insane. And the posing. I used to be amazing at posing. I need more posing lessons. I actually need to start practicing posing again because I haven't done it in a long time. And who doesn't want to have nice posing selfies? But that is friggin' a training session in its own self. It really is. You need to be emotionally embracing it. You need you need to be emotionally embrace you need to be emotionally, mentally, and physically embracing a building phase, not bracing against it if you want to be the most successful in it. Because the fear of getting loads of belly fat, losing control, feeling uncomfortable, going backwards, whatever idea you have in your head, the scale going up, your pants feeling bigger, all of that, you need to let go of that and embrace it, lean into it, not brace against it if you want to be successful. Because otherwise, the half in, half out is not going to build the glutes, the shape, the legs, the shoulders, the definition, the stronger look, the athletic look, the defined look that you want. You cannot want the result of a building phase while clinging on to metrics and progress metrics, measures, ideals, the ideal progress, whatever it is of the fat loss phase, the mindset of the fat loss phase, or any fear stories that we have in our head, any stories at all, any false stories, any beliefs. that have not, well, obviously they're all beliefs that aren't serving you. Because if they were, you'd be feeling like freaking fire by now and feeling like fire. Because you can look really good and still not feel like you're on fire. And I mean that in a positive way, like, oh, baby, I'm on fire. Sorry, I had to do that. A good building phase is slow, it's controlled, it's very boring. Like I said, you have to be okay with your body not changing all that much. You have to be okay with a lot of things not changing all that much. Movement part, movement pattern mastery. Are your hinges getting cleaner? Are you getting better at bracing? Are you feeling your lats with things? You're going to have to keep learning those. You never stop learning those. It's mastery. Mastery isn't something you complete and check a box on. It's something that's a continuing process. I'm still learning my bracing. I'm still having to fix it. And it sucks when I train at this time, once I finish this podcast, because I can't brace all that well because my belly's huge. And by that I mean I've already eaten so much food and drunk. Like I drink way too much for I'm a very thirsty person with my ADHD meds. And the reason I'm touching on this and not leaving it out is because of the fact that your belly and your bigness in the midsection isn't just about what your body is at logistically. Like you're eating a lot of food, you're drinking water, you're hydrated, all that comes into it. How are you with your split squats? How are you with your Bulgarians? Progress is moving better as well. All of that leads into it. Like you cannot separate. You cannot separate physique from progress. Progress in the gym is not separate from physique change. It's the lead into indicator of it. Better reps, better load, better control and effort mean that something is happening. Something's happening. But then where it goes from that initial phase is what's going to shift your body composition because you can get stronger without building muscle. And if you're always getting stronger and increasing weight, then I would say that you're not building muscle at all because you shouldn't be. If you're always seeing progress on the logbook week to week, that's not real muscle growth either because real progress is slow and it's invisible and it's something you fight for. It means that you either started off too sloppy and slow, or you're changing things too regularly, or you're still learning a skill because muscle change, muscle progress in itself is something that you're literally fighting for every week. And it's not meant to be daunting. That's why being on a smart program that allows for you to give your best every single set does it, and knowing how to approach your exercises and sets does it. Because sending a squat to failure or a deadlift to failure every set is not what we're aiming for because the rest of your actual hypertrophy work is going to take a toll. We don't want that. That's that point. Now, the next, the last most important point, if you keep bouncing between dieting and not dieting, I want to revisit this because it is something that is probably going to be the most important thing to land on. You're never, you're always going to just stay stuck in the same sort of physique. Like your physique is going to barely change. And it's why we can feel like we've been trying all of the things, trying really hard. It makes us feel like there is something that we're missing. But you can't just flip-flop and not commit to one phase. And when you still feel like you have a lot of body fat left to lose, or you're still not lean enough yet, it's really, really hard for you to commit to eating enough and pushing enough and just going all in, especially when your history has not shown you to be successful before. But you need a way to buy in. That's why I like going deep in these podcasts because I'm hoping that at least I can give you some hope. And if you need someone to help you through it so you can stop the spiraling, you can reach out to me and I'm going to help you through that. That's what I am here for. That's what I want to help you through because it is the worst place to be stuck in. We don't want to just feel fatigued and exhausted like we're doing all the things. We want to feel like we're progressing. We want to feel like we have clarity. We want to feel like everything that we're doing connects to each other in a way that's progressive. Because you can be doing the same exercise, literally the same exercise, and one will build muscle, the other one does nothing. You can be doing the same program and the same thing because it's not just what you're doing, it's how you're doing it. And then the variables come in mind. It's how you're doing it, the effort that you're putting into it, the intensity that you're putting into it. Then we can look at the program a little bit more because a lot of people aren't doing the things that actually get the most out of the sessions. There's so many friggin' kickbacks and hip thrusts and things that don't stimulate the most amount of change because if hip thrusts and kickbacks were as effective as they're proven to, as people are led to believe they are, let's say that again. If hip thrusts and kickbacks and all of these little booty fluffery work is as effective for glute optimization and glute maximization as people claim them to be, then why are we able to do them so often and throw in such a shit ton of volume? Because they don't take that much to recover from because the stimulus and the 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 stimulus and the tension and the cost on that muscle isn't as large. You need to be using those the big bang for buck movements, the big bang for buck patterns and exercises that are going to you want to lay like when you're carving out of a stone to create whatever you want to create, you want to have a big slab there and you want to slab it with like a big freaking knife first. You don't want the little like nail filer. That's not going to do anything to a big block of wood. Like you want to chip at it first. And most women don't have enough size there to begin with to even do the specializing, to even do like all these pumpy things. Like those things have a place when we need to have added volume in to pass that threshold because you might have a sore back or you might have movement limitations. So while we're working on these things, let's get you volume elsewhere. I have girls doing hip thrusts and different variations of that because we're teaching them hip hinges. We're teaching them different ways of connecting a couple of like the core with the glutes with all these different things. Like I there are there are controversial things that I use within my programming because they are my clients now, and I can actually make sure that it is serving a purpose and not just doing something that is not what we are doing it for. Like we are doing it for something, but it's not actually giving us that because we believe it's going to, if that makes sense. So, yeah, I hope that kind of helps because it really matters. Like the body you imagine off the fat loss is going to require so much more than what we think it does, but it's just not taught because no one's been taught body recomposition, especially if you're over 30. It's all been fat loss. It's all been magazines and celebrity diets. So I know how hard that is to shift, but we need to realize that the physiques online that we're seeing have been at this for years, and it's not that you're missing anything. And I have approached exactly on this. I think it's still the pinned one. I'm not entirely sure. But I said that the only thing that I was missing was time. And the only thing you're missing, the only thing that I have that you don't, is time, doing the right things. And I had had a coach the whole way through that too. I never not have a mentor because to me, mentors are everything. I need a mentor because we aren't able to see outside of our biases, outside of our boxes without that. So use performance as the real scoreboard. Make sure that you, like, if you're going into a surplus that also needs a time frame, like surpluses are the same as diets. They need to be earned and they need time frames. Maintenance is where you can push everything. That's where body recomposition happens, but it's also the least entertaining, the least, and what's the word? The least eventual, blah, blah, blah. There's a word for it. The least exciting, there's the least like rewarding, whatever you want to call it. There's the least pops of wee happening in there. It's showing up and learning to just give your best every single session and know that every single time you're laying a slab and it gets to be rewarding. You get to see progress in so many other ways, but you cannot diet your way to a physique you have never built. Think about your last 2 years, 4 years. 3 months in a deficit, 3 months in a deficit. And then you do that again and again because you feel like you need to shred. So then you spent like 8, 10 months or 12 months in a deficit. How long have you spent in a genuine building phase? And by that, I don't mean surplus. I mean at least maintenance. And not just a suppressed maintenance, like at least 1,800 calories. Most women should be eating at least 1,800 calories. Not every woman needs 2,000, but there are many of you that could actually maintain on 2,000 if you did things the right way. There are many of you that could maintain on much more than 2,000. I have 353, 55. I think she's 52 now. So mid 50s, ish, eating over 2,000 calories and maintaining. And they have defined bodies, two of them in particular, because they've been coaching with me for at least 7 years. Yes, 7 years. So I know them really well. And one of them has just come to fall in love with mobility training. And because over that 7 years now, she's in her 50s, we've had to, well, it's not mobility training, it's just not just maxing yourself out on every lift. And she gets more out of every lift now. So we're able to do that. The women who look like the way you want to look did not get there by dieting repeatedly. That's what I'm gonna end this whole thing with. Because the scale becomes a whole less scary. The the slow progress becomes a whole lot scary. The word building becomes a whole lot scary when you actually get to build proof that it can work for you, but you can't build proof until you go all in and you let go of the psychological, the mental ropes that are pulling you down. Okay? It matters because old meanings get attached to new numbers, and that can hold you back. And it matters because muscle changes what scale weight means, what everything means. And it matters even more because uncertainty creates panic, it creates self-sabotage. And it matters a whole lot more because getting used to slower progress isn't easy at all. And we can sabotage. And if you're a woman getting your cycle, and if you're perimenopausal and you can't even estimate when you're getting your next PMS like attack, it matters even more because it's so easy to believe the slightest of thoughts that are not true. So I hope that helps. And if you have any other questions, if you want someone to look after all of this for you to stop you sabotaging, please shoot me a message on Instagram. Send me a message if this helped you. Send me a message if you're going to do things differently. I'd love to know your takeaways from this. And if you want any coaching, just DM me coaching or just shoot me a normal human message and I'll have a conversation with you. I always reply to my DMs. If it takes a long while, that's because I didn't see it because it was in my message requests. But every now and then, I spend a little bit more time going through and I'm like, oh, there's a message request there. Oh, it's hidden. So yeah, hope that helps. And you will hear me on the next podcast, but please give this podcast a 5-star rating. Like, I know you hear it all the time, but honestly, I like this takes a lot of time, a lot of effort for me to put together. And I'm not getting the ads that you're probably hearing on all the other podcasts. So it will mean the world to me if you could support me and get this out there with just clicking the stars. You don't even have to write something. And if you want to leave a comment in the comment section, if you have Spotify, I don't know how Apple works, that would be awesome. I reply to those when I see them. But yeah, I love you all, and you will hear me on the next podcast.